Hello, all you wonderful people out there. It is a gathering room at the usual time, at the correct place. And everything came together this week on my end. So I hope it's coming together on your end as well. And I hope that we start chiming in soon. And as people start chiming in, I want to tell you the visual image that I have. So far, we've got 0 viewers. So I'm going to keep blathering. 1 reaction. Oh, there's no viewer, but there is a reaction. Someone who does not, the 3 reactions, no viewers. Magic. Actually, now it says 42 viewers, even more magic. I was just saying before this call that when you all jump on and you say hello from here, hello from there, and it's from Cairo, and it's from New Zealand, and from different parts of Europe, and I see a map of the world. Hi, South Dakota, Kylie, and I see like a spider's web of light going from Laurie in Texas to, to Wisconsin, to me in California, to New York City. And I'm literally physically seeing a thread going from Missouri, and they're all connected to each other. So it's not just a bunch of things radially connecting to California. Hello from Florida, Malvina. But you're all connecting to each other. From Denver, Nadia comes in. So you see how the strings of light, Andre from Denmark. That was kind of an Oprah move, wasn't it? Denmark. Leipzig. Do you see how these threads, each one of us is connected to every other one of us? And it's an exponential. Karina's coming in from Germany. It's an exponential growth rate. Australia. I mean, these webs of light are now reaching all over the globe. Maui, we're covering the Pacific. We're covering like these strings going across the Atlantic, across the Pacific. I mean, we'll probably get someone from Antarctica at one point or another, a penguin. I've been standing on this egg for 3 months. I needed something to do. From Yorkshire in England, Anne comes in. Hello. Oh, Rose here doing hello. She's saying hello. Yay. And geez, from everywhere. We've got about, I think when we get to 150 people from Wales, from London, from DC, Washington, DC, from Slovenia. Oh my God, this is such big magic. Hello, Carol, you darling. She's beaming in from the Pleiades. That one, also by way of New Zealand. So we have 148. When we get to 150, I'm going to start talking.
An auction.
Egypt! Not Egypt. Someone from Illinois, but it could be Egypt. Might as well be. From Malta in the Mediterranean Sea. Amazing. From Philadelphia. How you doing? All right. So we have over 150 people. So I really want to share with you guys today something that I read. And I hate it when people filch things from other authors and then pass them off as their own. So I am not going to do that, but I ran across a really brilliant Christian mystic scholar named Cynthia Bourgeault. So that's Bourgeault. And it's Cynthia Bourgeault. And she does many wonderful things, but one thing she does is a practice called the welcoming process. And I've seen pieces of this in other practices, and I've used them myself. It's just so interesting when people put them together in different ways. They affect me differently. I think it has a lot to do with brain science, and she, by the way, is also really into the science, so that's one reason I love her so much. She's so articulate. But I've done pieces of this practice, but when I put them all together and used her practice, it affected me in a new way. And she teaches workshops and everything, and I'm sure I'm just doing a bastardized version. But it was so powerful for me this week that I wanted to share it with everyone. So I said on the promos, bring your burdens. So bring whatever it is to this gathering room. Bring the physical pain. Bring the pain over a child who is acting horrible. Bring your pain over the loss of a loved one. Bring the pain. Oh, it's Mother's Day. It's like the capital of pain day. So let's just think about our mothers, because I've heard psychologists say, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. And damn it, I'm a mother too, and all the blame seems to go back to us. But it's because we are seen as the source of the deepest love, even those of us who don't do a very good job. So if you are a mother and you did a crappy job, or you're doing a crappy job, bring that burden. If you had a mother who did her best and her best was horrible, bring that burden. If you had a mother who was an angel from God and then she was taken from you, bring that burden. Bring your pain, bring your resentment that other people had good mothers and you didn't. Bring your anger that you had a good mother and you lost her. Bring your pain that you thought you were going to be a perfect mother and then something went horribly wrong. There's no pain deeper than the mother wound. Most of my career, I think, has been connected with people who suffer from a trauma around some kind of mother connection. So I'll bring as my burden today just my anxiety over, I'll be very honest, Adam turned 30 this week and he's never had a girlfriend. And when he was 28, he said, my birthday wish, he said, I've waited 28 years, it's time I had a girlfriend. And it just stabbed me in the freaking heart. You can bring whatever pain you want. And if you bring rage, believe me, it doesn't just have to be grief. It can be intense anger. Don't hold that back. It can be fear. You know, maybe your mother's sick or you'll never get mothering or whatever. Any negative emotion, bring it. Or if you've got nothing around mothering, bring something else. But bring something deep. So I'm going to bring that pain, which is a recurrent pain for me. And it's been something I worried about since he was diagnosed 30 plus years ago. I thought nobody will ever love him the way he'll want to be loved. Self-fulfilling prophecy, maybe it's all my fault. That's a good mother anthem. We should write a song called It's All My Fault. Okay, so I'm gonna let that pain come up. So sit with your burden, you're not alone here. And I want you to feel whatever you're feeling. It might be a whole mess of feelings, love, anger, loss, joy. It could be just a mess. So get the most painful thing. And what you're going to do, so for me, I feel guilty about Adam having Down syndrome because I had the choice to abort that pregnancy. And so I feel like anything that happens to him because of the Down syndrome is my fault. And we can't be sure that it's because he has Down syndrome that no one's ever been his girlfriend, but I kind of think it has something to do with it. So this is a pain I've had for 30 years. I'm going to let it in, and I avoid it, right? It's just, and I feel like I created him to want love, knowing he would never get it. What I'm trying to do now is I don't hide from my own feelings about that. In fact, I'm finding them in the body. And you guys who do my coaching system know that we do this all the time. We find everything in the body. But that's where you go. So find the place in the body. For me, it's in my stomach. There's a clenching and a tightening, and then it just rises up like a noose around my heart and just pulls it incredibly tight. And it's an intense, sharp physical anguish, and it doesn't go away. And then my throat closes. And that's basically where it lives. It's like from there to there. And then it gets to my head and I'm like, don't think about it. He'll be fine. We'll find him a girlfriend. Everything will be great. He's a happy guy. But from here to here, I'm not buying it. So let the pain be big and find it in your body. And then you want to give it a name. And I'm just going to call mine anguish. Just give it a random word. So when you've thought of a name, find it in the body. Take a minute. I know I do this all the time, so it's easier for me. If it's not easy for you to find your pain in the body, you might want to sit with the difficult thought, let the feeling grow, and then start breathing deeply and feeling your body from the feet up all the way like a tide is rising through your ankles and your knees and your thighs and your pelvis and your hips, your stomach, your diaphragm, your lungs, your heart, your neck, the back of the shoulders, all the way up over the head, the face, down the arms. where is the feeling located? And it's very uncomfortable, yeah? So here's where you do the switcheroo. You just start naming it and localizing it in the body and saying, welcome. You are welcome to come in. You are welcome to sit down. And you name it, welcome anguish, welcome anguish, welcome. You're welcome. Come in, there's space for you. Welcome in. Self-doubt, welcome, welcome. Yeah. Despair, welcome, welcome. Sit down, sit down. Sit down at the table in my heart. Welcome in, welcome. And you look it in the eye like it's a person. And you say, welcome. And you can't say that word honestly without the heart opening just a little. Welcome. So when I did this, for myself, it immediately became obvious to me that there was not just a random feeling, but that there was a small child hurting. So I could actually start remembering different circumstances in my life where this pain had come to me. I had a cousin with Down syndrome who was my age, and it was a huge family. There were hundreds of us. But she wasn't given much. In those days, they weren't given any occupational therapy, anything. And so they came to our house, and she was like a wild thing, and I was terrified of her. And they told me, go make friends with her. And she hid under the table. And I went under to try to play with her, and she was screaming in so much pain. And I remember I must have been 7-ish. And so I'm saying welcome to the 7-year-old under the table who's looking at her screaming cousin, who doesn't quite look the same as other people, and in like shattering into pieces. And I say, welcome, little one, welcome, welcome, sit down, sit down. It's okay. You sit down with anguish, you sit down with self-doubt, self-loathing, self-blame. Welcome. And you start to ask them, what can I do to make you more comfortable? Instead of get out, get out, get out, you say, what would give you a space to live? What would that space look like for you? And I start to feel this open area inside me that's almost like a cathedral. We talked about cathedrals in the very first gathering room. But it's warm, and there's light coming through stained glass windows, and there are loving beings, and they're bringing food, and they're bringing drink, and they're bringing love. And I allowed them to serve all the pain inside me. And I start to experience a shift. And at this point, you can go to the final step. So the first one is find an issue. Second one is locate it in the body. Third one is give it a name and welcome it. Fourth one is when a shift occurs, when you shift from the one in anguish to the one saying, welcome, I'm setting up a place for you to be comfortable. Then you say, you can leave anytime you want. You can stay as long as you need. And when you leave, I'll try to make sure everything's, good. We'll send you out with pillows and blankets and food and a driver in a limo or whatever, and you can leave. So it's a very direct way to deal with emotion and sensation. And those of you who do the Byron Katie work with me know that that is also incredibly powerful. This bypasses the language that Katie uses so brilliantly, and it goes directly to heart feeling. And I really liked it. And as we went through it on the phone, I could feel changes in your energy. I don't know if everybody felt a shift, but I know some of you did, because the moment I said welcome it, I felt, how do you feel it? To me, it's this of when I'm talking to a group, there's an energetic shift, and I can feel it. I can feel it in my body right now. So that's the practice. It's super simple, but I sat on my meditation cushion and did it for like an hour yesterday, and I found it very transformative. So I wanted to share it with you and maybe help put your burdens down on Mother's Day, the most difficult day of the year. So any questions, any comments? Anybody want to say that didn't work at all? You suck. I found that it worked really, really well with physical pain. I was actually walking. I got a case of the shin splints, and I was far away from home and needed to walk home on my shin splints. And there was some concern that it would get worse, which typically happens. And instead, I went in and I started to welcome the shin splints. And I said, come on, fill the whole body, open up to it. Carolyn Pope, the Pope has called in, you guys. The Pope is on the line. Thank you for gracing us. She says, scary but peaceful. There's an oxymoron, isn't it? And yet, it's funny, the scary things will follow us through our whole lives until we sit down and welcome them. I know one beloved friend who has really bad agoraphobic tendencies, fears of all kinds of things that could be in the outside, and sometimes things that are inside too. And as long as I've loved this person, some 30 years, I've never seen her say welcome to her phobias or to the things that cause the phobia. Okay, Natalie says, what do you do if this feeling feels as big as the earth itself? Great question. So do you want to think about something like, I've done similar things with issues like the polar ice caps melting, and I look at them and I feel so tiny and so dwarfed and so despairing. And if I sit long enough and allow that to be, allow myself to expand around it, a very interesting thing happens. And this is something that people who've had enlightenment experiences sometimes say, that they have an experience of the self expanding to be as big as the universe, and they believe, they feel very powerfully that what is in the universe is also mirrored in them. And that if they can address the fear here, it's going to address the whole of their particular universe. Since everybody sees the universe from a different perspective, we're all basically living in our own perceptual universe. So it is an interesting idea to think that if we shift something inside us that is our equivalent of a universal problem, something in our universe will shift. So like when I get upset about hearing people screaming on the news, which is really hard for me, that's a really difficult energy, especially these days. And so I try to find, and it sparks it in me, that same vindictiveness, the rage, the outrage. And I go and I sit down and I try to give it a space to be. And I try to, and it turns out to be a frightened child every single damn time. And if I can love that, then I've at least become the change I wish to see in the world. Oh, Michelle says, so do you find that you may have to do this many times for the same issues? Absolutely. Absolutely. The fear of loss, for example, there are these big fears we have. The fear of physical decrepitude is one that I've had since I was 18 when I developed fibromyalgia. And every time I've had a new symptom, I've had to deal with the fear that the symptom would never go away. Because for me, it meant many, many months or years of incapacity, which was very difficult for me, and I don't want it to come back. So I've had to embrace, now I'm aging, so that's, I mean, I've always been aging, but I'm in middle age. So now it's like, okay, this is not going to have, it's not going to end with me being vigorous and strong and young. It's going to maybe end with a graceful death. So yeah, I do that all the time. Marushka says the pain is too excruciating to let in, especially physical pain from fibromyalgia. Honey, that's what I have had. Let me tell you something. The first time I did something like this, I was actually reading Joan Boroshenko's book called Minding the Body, Mending the Mind. This was many, many years ago. And I had incredible pain in my hip and back. I hadn't been able to use my right leg for about 4 or 5 years. And I know what you mean about excruciating. It was mind-boggling. I mean, I've been through that and I've been through childbirth. And it's like, except the fibromyalgia goes on and on and on. And I remember the first time she said, pour your attention into the pain, let it be so excruciating it overwhelms you, and then flood it with love. And I remember lying on a couch and trying to follow that instruction and the pain being like, white hot through my whole body, like this explosion of pain, and going into it instead of out of it, and then starting to direct compassion into it, and how something went through the center of that white hot pain, and it was soft and it was gentle, and the emotional agony started then, as if I'd been thawing out from being frozen, and the emotional pain that I'd held back of being disabled and not knowing why, and like just living every day in continuous excruciating pain. The emotional agony from that was another wave that was even more intense. And then I cried and 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 cried. Did the pain go away? Not for a while, not for quite a while. But the emotional pain began to become a sweetness after a while. And then, yes, it started to loosen. Emotionally, I loosened around the physical pain, and then the physical pain itself began to start to thaw. And it took several more years, and I still have flare-ups, but I am functionally free from pain most days, and I can be really active. So, I mean, this welcoming process is something I started way back then with what I did not want. What we resist persists. So flip that around. What we do not resist cannot persist. I know that doesn't seem true, but do we really try it? Let's try it. Let's just see. Virginia says, are we expecting to listen to the painful thought when we ask, how can I make you feel more comfortable? And what do we do after? How do we give them space? That's a wonderful question. So yesterday, what I found was about a 2-year-old girl inside me, or I'll ask the 7-year-old under the kitchen table with my cousin, what do you need? Okay, what I need is for caring grown-ups who understand these things to come fish my cousin and me both out from under the table. Not the grown-ups who were with us. God bless their cotton socks. They were doing their best, and their best was not great. But I've since met incredible, wonderful people. So I'm going to think about my friend Tim Shriver and his wife. He's the chairman and president of Special Olympics. And I'm going to have them fish out those 2 7-year-old girls and bring them to a place that is calm and loving, where there are people who don't think that my cousin is weird, where they can explain to me what's going on with her. And I do it all in my imagination. Here's the thing. Our imaginations are the most powerful healing mechanisms we know. The most powerful medications we have, and especially the most powerful antidepressants, are, even in drug trials, they're only a tiny fraction of a percentage more effective than the placebo effect. The placebo effect is the effect of imagining that something will do better for you. One of my favorite studies is called Placebo Without Deception. They took these people who were in a lot of physical pain, and they gave them sugar pills, and they said, these are sugar pills. They don't have any medicine in them, but they will make you feel better. Turned out like 50% of the people got significant relief from these sugar pills. But then they ran out of sugar pills, and their diseases came back, their pain came back. So they went to the doctors and said, my sugar pills are gone. I need more. And the doctors said, it's sugar. It's not even good for you. Just go take a pill. And they were like, no, you have to give us. So they gave them more sugar pills so their diseases could get better. Sorry for that little diversion. I just find it fascinating. Imagination is the most powerful healing thing we have. It's the most powerful agent of manifestation we have. I don't even mean in a new age way. If you want to build a truck, you have to imagine a truck first. Imagination is at the core of all creation. So almost all our pain, that what you've been holding your pain inside of, is imagination. I have an imagination that's filled with people rejecting my son. I have an imagination that's filled with people thinking he's substandard. All I have to do to change my inner life is change my imagination of what his life might be like. It's going to be just as valid. I could imagine that he's going to live in a world full of love where a wonderful, gorgeous woman is going to fall in love with him. I could imagine that. And it could be that by imagining it, I'll make it so. It's no more true than my negative images. So, Kathy Oppergard, yay, imagination for the win. I think we don't realize that when we say life sucks and then you die and everything's stupid and nobody likes me, that we are actually vividly imagining, that we are reaching out with our imaginations into the universe and changing our perceptions, filtering everything we see, changing our interactions with every single person we meet, because we're imagining catastrophe. And if we welcome the part that's in pain and it says, I need a softer planet, all we have to do is imagine the softer planet and we give it to ourselves. I had the most interesting experience with someone once. She had some ecstasy with her and she took some. I was with someone who took some ecstasy and we were in a room full of people and nobody else took anything. She was the other. She was like, okay, I'll just do this myself. So then she had the experience of ecstatic union. And I sat there and I watched her become beautiful. And her features didn't change at all. She didn't go put on makeup or anything. As her imagination was changed by the drug, she started to envision a world filled with love. And I swear to God, her face and body physically changed right in front of me to become more beautiful.
Drugs are bad.
What? Drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. I didn't take anything. It was no.
It won't make you beautiful.
It won't make you beautiful. No, wait, no. God, do we have to put this out there? It happened. I was there. I didn't. She was a stranger. I have no idea who it was. Okay. I'm just saying that if you imagine something, even if something chemical is creating it, it physically changes you. So Tina says, if we create the space, the world issues within ourselves, and then we offer it overwhelming love, we can influence change. Well, I wasn't going to bring up this name, but the name that comes to my mind is Anita Moorjani. She's not the only one. I just really like her book. And she was the person who died of cancer and was sent back, and 9 days later was cancer-free. I mean, she was riddled with cancer, and 9 days after waking up, she was cancer-free. And she said that was her experience, that she realized that we don't just live, okay, dig this. We don't live in a universe where everything responds to our imagination. A universe exists within us where everything responds to our imagination. So you can, yes, I actually literally believe this. I watched this woman change in front of me because of her changed state of mind. I've watched people imagine themselves out of impossible situations. If you've read the book A Long Way Gone by Isaiah, I forget his last name, but he's this incredible person. He was a boy soldier in Africa. Whole family was killed. No way out of this hideous war. He was chosen as a delegate for some child UN thing. He went to New York. He met an American, oh yes, Mullah says, love Anita Moorjani. He met an American storyteller, and she talked to him about his life. And then he went back to Sierra Leone, where he was temporarily safe. But then the war came to his city, and he risked being swept up again in this absolute nightmare like none of us can even imagine, I hope. Somebody clearly imagined it, because there it is. And here's the thing. Because he had talked to this woman, he had an image of leaving the country and getting out and going somewhere. So he made his way to the border. He escaped Sierra Leone. He got back to New York, and the storyteller ended up adopting him. Bea, that's his last name. Ishmael Bea, not Isaiah. Ishmael Bea is the guy's name. And so by telling her story and by imagining her way of living, she changed his life, and his imagination changed his life. I talked to women who had started on the streets of Nairobi as beggars, who had made their own. They'd come out of poverty with small business. They created beauty and peace and a good standard of living for 300,000 people, these people in an organization called Jamii Bura. And I sat with them and asked them, what was it? Was it the microloans? What was it? And they said, no, it was this Swedish woman who came and sat with us on the street and told us stories and made us imagine different things happening to us. And then we did them. So I invited you to bring your burdens here just to get ease. But where your questions have taken me is to a whole different level of this. You welcome the feelings in, and then you say, what can I do for you? And they ask us the questions we need to answer in order to save ourselves and the world. They ask us to create a space of peace. They ask us to access our own wisdom. They ask us to bring in people who know how to love. They ask us for all the shifts inside that make us the change we wish to see in the world. So yeah, the welcoming process can make us feel better, but more than that, it can teach us how to move forward with our own lives and then with each other in relationship. And then, yeah, that whole spider web of light that is circling the globe right now with all of us, talking to all of us, that welcoming is spreading through those lines so that we're all being touched by it. The world just changed a little tiny bit. And I hope it feels as sweet to you guys as it does to me. Boy, time flies when you're having fun. It's time to say goodbye. Mwah, love you. Until next week, imagine welcome. Mwah, mwah, mwah.